Hey everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ariel and today I'll be finishing up these two cow paintings that I started in my sketchbook using a limited color palette. I love challenging myself with a limited color palette when I'm just not feeling too creative, but I'll explain more on that later in the video. As I paint, I thought we could also chat a bit and I could talk about something a little personal to help you all get to know me a little bit right away. And that something is why I decided to delete my old Instagram art account even though I had about 1,500 followers, and now with my new account I am sitting at a little under 200. It's been a decision that was weighing on me for a while now, and after finally going through with it, I finally feel ready to share the story behind it. The story is just a little heavy, so I apologize that may not be the mood you were looking for today, but I just feel compelled to talk about this and make sure that it has a permanent space here on my channel, as it is really what catapulted me into starting this YouTube channel. So as you can see in those first clips, I just started with blocking in some of the darkest areas in my reference photo. At this early stage of my paintings, I push myself to focus on the shapes that I see rather than what I am painting in order to lay a good foundation for the details that I will later add. The cows I actually decided to paint because my mom requested that I paint some cows, so I had to do that for mom. But the limited color palette I chose for a few different reasons. One, I wanted the page to have a sense of cohesion and harmony between the paintings, and using the same colors in each of the little paintings on the page allows me to do that really easily. I also wanted to pay closer attention to the lighting in the reference photos, and by limiting myself to just a few colors, it helps take away some of the distraction from all the details that you might find, and it allows me just to play around with light and shadow more intentionally. It's really just a fun challenge, and it really pushes me to think creatively about light and contrast and shadow, and I really encourage you to try it in your own art if you're feeling stuck or want to try something new. Okay, so let's dive into why I deleted my old Instagram account. To be honest, a big part of it was simply because I struggled with consistency, and I had long periods of inactivity on the app due to lack of follow-through with myself, life getting busy, or just not taking my art that seriously. And if you know anything about social media, you know that the algorithm is not forgiving when you disappear and come back sporadically. Understandably. I knew that, and I had basically lost the trust of the algorithm, and every time I posted, it felt like I was just shouting into the void. So with this part of the painting, I was specifically using the Princeton brush. It's a liner brush 10/0. I feel like I actually did all four of these paintings with just this one brush, which I know I used something earlier to block in the big colors, but once those big colors were blocked in, I basically just used this one brush. Does anyone ever do that? Like they accidentally just paint the entire painting with one brush pretty much the entire time? Maybe that's just me. Anyways, I basically just use these little hatching marks with this brush to create a fur texture. I love using texture in my paintings. I feel like they add a lot of depth to the painting. I like letting the colors kind of bleed into each other, and I kind of use it as a blending technique to hatch the colors one into the other and kind of overlap them as the painting develops. The key here definitely is to go slow and work on your layers. This video may seem fast, but these two paintings took me about an hour and a half to do. Okay, so back to our story. While knowing that my art account had a bad history, let's say, that wasn't the only thing that helped me make my decision. Last year was incredibly hard for me. It was both the best year that I've ever had, and at the same time, it was the most devastating. In May of 2023, my husband and I welcomed our very first child. We were in our newborn bubble bliss, of course, and we knew that newborns were demanding, but I really wasn't prepared for how much exhaustion I was going to feel. I tend to be an endurance creature, and I always just persevere, and this was just a time in my life where I really couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up with my art and keep up with my newborn. If you watched my last video, you'll know that I made a promise to myself to restart my art and posting on my socials when he turned 6 months old. Well, it was about a week before my son was going to turn 6 months old, and I received the news that my dad passed away. And just saying it like that so plainly, it makes it sound like, oh, so sad, but peaceful, right? And no, that's the best way I can put it without getting into everything, but it wasn't. It was just devastating, traumatic, and life just stopped. My son and I moved in with my mother for a little while just to be close to her and family and helping deal with all the legal things that come along with a loved one passing. On top of that, it was the holidays, and when I moved back home, it was the thick of winter. So aside from grieving itself and needing to just kind of jump back into normal life, because that's what a baby demands, the weather wasn't too inspiring, and once again, I just didn't feel like painting. But this time, I know it wasn't lack of time or energy. This time, I was avoiding it. Okay, try to get through this part without getting too emotional. My dad was one of my biggest supporters of my art. Both of my parents are, but he and I connected a lot through art. He had so many of my paintings hung in his little area of the house, and he and I would share art videos back and forth all the time that inspired us or that we thought were impressive. He would surprise me with thrifted art supplies he found or little Bob Ross trinkets. He was creative like me, or I guess I was creative like him, and he was always the first one to go and like or comment on my post. I mean, if you go back to my old page, you can still see all of his comments there. And I'd find myself scrolling through my phone, and when I'd come across a beautiful painting that I know he'd love, I couldn't send it to him. And not having that person that I love to talk to about art and connect through art around anymore, well, it stung. It still stings. It'll always sting. So having those two huge life-altering events happening all within the same year made me feel understandably overwhelmed. I was grieving, adjusting to being a mom, still in charge of managing my home, and trying to figure out how to move forward from all of this at the same time. My art just needed to take a back seat. I wasn't in a place to create consistently or engage with the platform in a way that felt authentic to me. And social media aside, I just wasn't in a good place to create art, period. I go more in depth about this part of the story in my last video, so if you're interested in that, you can check out the description. I'll link it below. But essentially, I was asked to commission a small painting that I couldn't refuse in mid-July. And that single painting was all that it took to relight that spark in me that loved painting so much. And this is what really pushed me to delete my account and go for a fresh start. My old account felt like it carried all this baggage with it. Baggage from my inconsistency, from the pressure of trying to perform on social media, and from this difficult season of my life. I wanted to let that go and create something new that felt more true to where I am now, both as an artist and as a person. This whole experience has made it painfully obvious that you only get one life to go after your dreams. So anyways, that's why I decided to delete my old account and start over. I want this new chapter to reflect where I am now with more authenticity and joy and purpose in creating. I'm so excited to be sharing this journey with all of you, whether it's painting cute cows or just talking about life and art. If you're interested in seeing more of this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe and join me on this new adventure. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see where this journey takes us. Until next time.